Yeah, it doesn't work with Palo Santo either. So why does it only work with clary sage? Because the molecular weight of the scleral is so different. Oh. You got a question?
Yeah, just byproducts. I mean, you do a first distillation and you're going to have byproduct. What is typically done with byproduct? I mean, maybe it's going to vary from plant to plant, but do you, like, you know, we saw with the chips, there's the finer Sandalwood, and then there's the second, and then there's this, which you distill. So with this byproduct, another byproduct of all of the plants, do you sell them to, what happens? And like maybe it's a case by case basis, but generally, is it used for other things, but may not be used necessarily for a young living essential oil, but it is used for another.
The question is, what do we do with the byproduct of distillation? And believe me, when we're distilling, and for all of those of you who've been to the winter harvest, and you've seen the mountain of chips that come out of the distillation, and what do we do with those? And for years, I've been doing different studies and looking at different ideas of what do we do with those chips. And so what we're doing right now in Fort Nelson excites me because I bought a pellet plant in Fort Nelson. That'll be installed this fall. And so everything that comes out of the distillation of the Fort Nelson factory is going into pellets, to make pellets. Now, just this year, our chips coming out of Highland, we finally got a contract with a pulp mill to take the chips. And so those chips are going to a pulp mill now to be cleaned and recycled for paper and paper products. So it's just been a lot of years trying to find, you know, how to deal with it because nobody did. In Utah, the lavender, the clary sage, we call it straw. Byproduct of distillation is straw. That's easy because we put it into a compost pile and then we mix it with the manure from the animal park there at the farm and grind it up, and then every year it goes back on the field. And we put back every year over 300,000 tons of compost. And simply because, for those that don't know it, the distillery in Utah runs 11 and a half months out of the year now, never shuts down. Ecuador runs 11 and a half months out of the year. Generally, yeah, very consistent 6 days a week, once in a while 7 days, but 6 days a week in Ecuador. Fort Nelson, this year we're still distilling in Fort Nelson. It'll be shutting down. It could shut down any day. Last year we ran till the 15th of June at Fort Nelson, but last week, Chip, we were 82 degrees last week in Fort Nelson. Yeah. And actually we were exactly 40 degrees warmer there than Salt Lake City. It was amazing. And the temperatures are staying in the 70s, mid to high 70s right now in Fort Nelson. There'll be a day that'll drop down in the 60s, but our temperatures in Fort Nelson all this last winter were an average of 35 degrees warmer. Our coldest night in Fort Nelson this past season was 22 below one night. And when Chip was up there working with me last year, we were down to 45 below. And then it got cold after he left. So I think he knew it was coming, so he said, I'd head home for Christmas. He was smarter than I was. But yeah, we got down to 55 below last year, which was more normal temperature for Fort Nelson. But our coldest was just one night at 21 below, 25 below, and then it stayed around 20.
Very cold.
Yeah. Especially when you fly from Fort Nelson at 50 below to Ecuador at 88 above. That was an interesting experience. But all of those weather changes, you know, affected. So last year we shut down the 15th of June, and it was really interesting because those that know Ben Howden here, his son Corey is managing the plant up in Ecuador, or Fort Nelson he's in Nepal right now on my project there. But he kept calling me and saying, Gary, the oil's not dropping off yet. I said, the oil's not dropping off. No, we're still getting good oil. And I said, don't worry about it, Corey. I says, it's because the ground temperature is still cold. He said, no, it can't be. He says, you know, we're farming. And I said, doesn't matter, the ground temperature is still below 52 degrees. And he said, oh, okay. I said, the moment the ground temperature hits 52 degrees, the oil is gone. He called me up on June the 15th. He says, Gary, the oil's gone. I said, did you check the ground temperature? He said, yeah, 52 degrees. And as soon as the ground temperature drops below 52 degrees in the fall, the oil starts back up again.
I read that in the book,
Yeah.
Biography, which was a great book, by the way. And I read that with the spruce, the colder the temperature,
Yeah. The more oil.
the better the oil because
Yeah.
of the
Antifreeze. Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful phenomenon. And that's why you've heard me say that when you work with the plants and you work with the dirt, and particularly in distillation, where it brings it together, you can't deny there's a God. You know, it's just so beautiful to watch that whole balance and the equilibrium in it, and how the plants self-regulate, and how they protect, and you know, it was all designed for that purpose. So it's beautiful. But this year, because of the warmer climate in Fort Nelson, I expect to get a call any day. We're shut down because the ground temperature's, you know, coming up. And look at what's happening in Fort Nelson or Fort McMurray with the horrible fires there. I mean, here's a country that should still be under 2 feet of ice, and it's the largest fire in all of North America today. Yeah, it's horrible, and the amount of people that's homeless, and it's devastating. So. And it's burning up thousands and thousands of acres of black spruce. And when I learned about this 4 days ago, when it was, it really set me back. And I'll tell you why. Is because Fort McMurray was one of the sites that I chose to go build a distillery. And I chose to go there because of the amount of black spruce and the abundance of it, and feeling that it was a better location. And that's where I pushed. And yet the chairman of Commerce in Fort McMurray would never respond to me. And even though I sent letters, they never responded. So I aborted. And Fort Nelson did respond to me and went there. And I kept wondering, why the Chamber of Commerce never responded to me.
It's a mysterious way. See?
And I just got goosebumps when I heard about it.
Yes.
That if I built a distillery there, it would be gone.
That's right.
And no trees even afterwards, because they're burned up. So, you know, God really takes care of us. He really takes care of us, and it's beautiful. Next question.